Good morning, golf internet. How you doing this
Golf
morning? It's
internet.
Friday morning. Look at that. We got a full panel here for the Cover One Golf podcast. I think this is only the second time all four of these handsome faces have been on your screen for this. So I'm excited here for this episode of the Cover One Golf podcast, brought to you by Byrncliff Golf Resort and Banquets. Let's get right into it this morning, guys, because I think we're all on a time crunch. I know everybody feels bad for me. I do have a tea time to attend to at some point today. And then everybody else has stuff to do. So we want to get right into this here this morning.
Is it your fourth tea time this week or your fifth one?
So this is actually, we'll talk about it later in the week. When I met with you, Chris, that was my seventh day in a row. And then I took Sunday off. And then since then I've played, this will be my fifth day playing, but a lot of it is only 9. Right. I'm not playing 18 holes a day. It's a lot of it's 9, some of it's 18. So the back is definitely starting to feel the wear and tear from all the terrible golf shots that I do and hitting behind the ball. And I might have to go see some of Nate's guys here soon.
I got guys.
Playing through these back injuries, but I'm a grinder and that's what grinders do. But we'll get into our games here in a second. Real quick, before we get to Nate and Tilt here and talk about their games, Chris and I have got some updating to do. So last time we left our audience, we were talking about getting ready to go play at our new sponsor, Byrncliff. And then we did, Chris. We got out on probably the nicest weekend day so far in Western New York this past Saturday. So it was good to see you. Want to lead off and kind of talk about our experience over there at Byrncliff?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was great seeing you too. It was a really fun day. It's a beautiful course. I thought I had played it way back, like in high school, but I didn't remember it at all. And it was a really, really nice course. It's in great shape. We talked about it before we went. Like they like to say it's country club quality. It's public course, and that's legit. It's really, really nice. So it was a fun round. I mean, I think that we were both kind of during the round having some struggles at times, and I felt like I was playing really bad. I mean, I know off the tee, like that round and the round after, we'll talk about it more as we get into kind of how our golf week has gone, but I lost my driver completely. Like I can't hit it for like worth a damn right now. And but then by the end of the round, all of a sudden I'm like, I hadn't been checking the scorecard, and it turned out that I scored within my usual range, even though I was expecting much worse. So it's a tough course, but it's a lot of fun. It's really nice out there.
Yeah. To echo your point, when we arrived, Lindsay showed us around, showed us the facility, the driving range, fantastic. Showed us the rooms. That's something that I have not seen. Right, I've seen the hotels out there, but newly renovated rooms. And I was saying to her, you've got the pool and the mini golf course, and it's like for guys like me that aren't rich like Nate Geary and can't afford to be a country club member. You can rent it for a weekend and have the experience of being a member for a weekend and play golf every day and have good facilities to be at. And that's a really cool, unique thing I think that they offer that not a lot of courses do. And yeah, we got to play on.
I was just to add to that, they had the 10-person lodge you can get, but even if you just get a few rooms, they have a porch that's all connected, right? So you can have separate rooms, but still share an outdoor common area. And that outdoor common area overlooks the first tee. So you can watch people tee off. There's a great pool on the other side with mini golf. What's that?
I love to heckle,
Yeah,
so
right.
That would be me. I would just be talking trash to people as they're teeing off.
Especially after a few too many high noons in your own round and then get back and start heckling everybody else. Yeah, no, it would be a really cool experience to maybe we could get all of us down there and stay over sometime and play some golf. And
they all-inclusive stay and play packages are really we were learning more about that. You get a lot of golf included in that package. It's really nice. Definitely call them and check it out.
But what I will say is, one, we ended up again on possibly the nicest weekend. I play with a group on weekends, and it has been rain and kind of mucky throughout weekend golf here in Western New York, and it was like 75 and sunny, but the feels like was much hotter than 75 and sunny. It was a warm, nice day. But when you're out in the hills out there, you still had a little slight breeze. And so it was really nice. And unlike a lot of the courses I play, a lot of shaded areas, especially the way I was hitting the ball, I ended up in quite a bit of shade throughout the afternoon, not always in the fairway, but I started out all right. I felt like I started out with like a bogey par. My first drive was like 265, and I got on in 2 and had a par, and then I got a bogey and another par, and I was like, all right, like I'm gonna put a round together here, and then everything just totally fell apart for me. And to your point, Chris, like I felt like the round really got away from me. I was posting more doubles and even some triples and stuff, and that haven't been used to this year. But when you come from traditional Buffalo, Western New York golf, and then you go to the hills out there, just even 40 minutes in the other direction, it's a totally different type of golf, and it does take getting used to. And I'm playing Brighton, and Sheridan's got a little slope to it, but nothing like we experienced over at Byrncliff. So definitely a big challenge, and I definitely scored higher than I would have liked. I don't think that round counts towards my index, or it would have gone up a little bit more. But it didn't get as out of control as I thought. The way I was playing, I thought I was going to definitely, creep back into the hundreds, which I haven't done that this year. And in the middle of the round, it felt like, man, this is going to be a disaster for me. And even with all that, though, when you're playing on a nice course like that, it's hard to be too mad. Like, even if your score is going a little bit sideways, like it's beautiful out, gorgeous day. It was a little bit
guys behind us.
I was going to say it was a little bit backed up, but we had nice guys in front of us, nice guys behind us. So it didn't feel like you were being pressed at all. And everybody at the facility, I do want to shout out, super nice. We sat in the pro shop probably for 30 minutes after the round, just chatting about, golf.
Did you guys meet the pro shop cat?
The cat was out while we were. Yeah, Chris was trying to get the cat to play with the ball.
I was rolling golf balls to it. He was just not reacting at all.
The pro shop cat is absolutely a vibe at that place. If he's in the pro shop, yeah.
Yes, definitely. And I'm really excited playing it again. I told my group we do our match play event at the end of the year. Like, it's a perfect place for something like that. Like, if you've got a group or even a tournament that you're looking to do, like, it's set up so well with the facilities that they have. And Chris, you got to see it as we're coming across 18 across the creek on the backside of that green. There's a little bit of a hill. And I was telling Chris last time we played the match play event, like, my group was the second to last to finish. We were within 1 point. We knew it. We were all texting each other what the match play was down to. And there was so much pressure just in that. And then everybody that already finished is just sitting up on the hill watching you approach that final green. And when we were talking to the owners, they're like, that's the way other tournaments are too. Like, everybody's finished, carts are lined up, everybody's watching. And there's just not a lot of spots to get that kind of unique experience like that. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely.
And so shout out to Byrncliff here real quick. Thank you for being a sponsor of the Cover One Golf podcast. Chris, do you want to update the people again on the sweepstakes that they're running with us? Chris?
Sorry, I lost you for a second.
Do you want to update folks on the sweepstake?
Yeah, sure. If you're listening on a podcast, check the description. We're going to have the link in there. If you're watching, here it is up on the screen, but we're also tweeting it out. It's pinned to our Twitter profile right now. But yeah, if you just go to that link, put your name and email address in, you'll be entered for a chance to win a round of golf for 2 people, including a cart. The sweepstakes ends, just over a week from now. So get those entries in. They're going to announce a winner a week from Sunday on Father's Day. And yeah, it's, definitely get it in, because you're not going to want to miss a chance to play that course. And just a quick update before we move on from Byrncliff stuff. We talked about the 5th hole last week, and in a round that was pretty up and down for me, that actually ended up being a highlight. It was the number 1 handicap hole, and I was able to get a shot, my approach like within an inch of the cup, and parred it. So I felt pretty good about that. Yeah, I mean, I did in all fairness, I got pretty lucky on one shot bouncing off a tree and back into the fairway. So, but yeah, we talked about it, we planned for it, and ended up working out.
And I actually am never going to plan again, because I got an 8 on that. That was my worst hole of the day.
That was a tough hole,
my drive ended up, luckily, actually, I got some break. My drive ended up, though, at the top of that hill on the right side of the fairway. So I had a huge trek up the hill to get up there. And then I caught some terrible luck in a ball that I thought came out. I hit a pretty nice shot, and it hit a branch, and we couldn't find it. So I had to take a penalty stroke, and then I 3-putt because I had no feeling of my putter all weekend. And I was just that's about where the round was just totally lost for me there on the front nine. And I won't lie, I was happy for you, but also raging internally that you had your best hole of the day and I had my worst. So
and then I went and tripled the next one. So, you know.
Yes. Here, we're going to run the video of 13 through 18, and then I'll quickly talk about my highlight of the day because I was excited about one of these holes here. So we're going to run the video. This is 13 through 18. For those who are just listening on the podcast, you can find the link to the video in the description. So my highlight was that 13th hole. Nate, you know it. Chris, you were there.
It's not my favorite hole.
No, and so for my shot shape, it's not a good hole. It's a dog leg left.
You're going
dog leg right kind of guy. I don't have that shot shape, and so I'm there. I'm struggling. The only thing that was really working for me was driver distance for the day, and I'm not a big driver. But I was getting some decent distance. It was warm out. And I saw in my mind a line over the tree line. And with my shot shape, I was like, this is the only way I'm going to be really in play, was to cut through the tree line and try to cut that hole sort of in half. And if I could get to the front of that first fairway, it would give myself a little chip shot up and, you know, maybe give me a scoring opportunity on the hole. Otherwise, if I played it straight, the other play was to either like play it sort of like at the sand trap and hope that I hit the back corner of the first fairway. But then I had a longer iron, which I'm not good at approach. And you have a bit of an elevated green. It's tight, compact. If I miss with my dispersion there, like those are the holes that get out of hand for me. And I think even Chris kind of like saw the line that I was pointing at. I was like, I don't know, dude. Cause like it's over trees. And it's like, I don't know if that's the smart play. Right. And then I did it. I hit the drive, smashed a drive. Although it wasn't the biggest drive of the day. It went about 240. But it went right through the tree line and I landed. We couldn't see it. That's the other thing about Byrncliff is you can have a really nice drive. And until you pull that card up, you don't really totally know where it went because you don't see. So there's so many elevation points and tree lines. And so because we were waiting a little bit, we drove up and saw it sit and smack dab in the middle, about 10 feet from the second cut on the first part of the fairway. And I was able to get down from there, 65-yard shot with my 58 and able to make birdie on that hole. And so something fun that I messaged you the other day, Nate, of I did it again at Brighton this week of being able to cut through a tree line with my drive and cut holes in half with my shot shape has been something added to my game that whether or not it's smart to do feels freaking boss to be able to like go over a tree line and cut a hole in half.
Shot that's like worthwhile that feels good is a safe shot.
Yeah, but here's my thing. The course record's safe if I miss, right? Like I'm not.
Yes.
It's not going to change all that much, but the confidence that you can gain and the way that feels like that can really actually save around and trickle into gaining confidence. Is, you know, Till, you talk about it all the time. A lot of this game is mental in your mental approach to it. And if you can gain confidence, like, man, I can clear that tree line and cut a hole in half, you're playing with a whole different set, even though you're playing with the same clubs, same skill set. So let's go around the horn hill here a little bit. Till, haven't heard from you. I know that you had a big, long weekend of golf while we were over in Byrncliff. Update us on how things were going at the country club down there.
Yeah, so we have 3 courses, and we had our big member guest tournament last week. 3-day tournament plus a practice round, so you get four days of golf, 18 holes each day. First day it's a 2-man tournament. So first day is a scramble, second day is a Texas scramble, and the third day is net best ball. And so essentially you play your score the first day, and then your par gets adjusted going into the second day, depending on how you finish each day. So for example, if you shot, let's say 4 under par as a scramble, the first day, your par then gets adjusted by 50% off of what you shot. So like if you're 4 under, you go down by 2 the next day. So your par on a par 72 would be a par 70 instead. So like each day it gets adjusted like that. So it keeps the teams bunched, and we had 14 flights, 12 teams each. Wow. We were in the middle of the pack after the first couple days, and then the last day we made a charge, and we ended up losing our flight by 1 shot, but we did make a charge at the end on best ball. And overall, I hit the driver really well. I putted really well. My issue, as I've talked about on this before, has always been hitting greens. My green and reg stats are pretty crappy, and that comes back to my iron play, which honestly, I was hitting my irons really well, but I had the slight pulls, so I was missing greens for me. I'm a lefty to the right. I was able to get up and down a decent amount, but obviously would have liked to have some of those back. So all in all, it was a great week. We had perfect weather. It was like high 70s, low 80s here, sunny all week, and it's just a great event. Each night they do something kind of special. The first Wednesday night practice round, they have what's called a stag night. So out on the range, they have like little bars set up. They have a long drive contest. They have a chipping contest. They have a putting contest, and you can get entered to win all these different prizes. Then they have like a party the second night, and then on the last day they have like the pool party and the scoreboard and everything out at the pool. So it's pretty sweet deal. It's definitely the best and biggest tournament we have each year. But it was a mental grind for sure for 3 days. So it'll be nice, this week and this weekend to get maybe back to playing a little bit more of a casual round. But the competition stuff is super fun. So I had a great time.
So you're married, correct?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
How does that go? No, that's me. So that's basically 5 days. Is that like your 5 day? Is that like your thing of the year?
Well, my wife golfs, but here's the thing. Yeah, so my wife golfs. We actually live on a hole on one of the courses. She's like really big into golf, and like, yeah, she keeps a handicap and everything. So
living my dream, brother. Living my dream.
The good thing about this tournament, right, is the practice round is Wednesday and the tournament days are Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, my kid's in daycare during the week. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday really don't affect my wife, right? Because the kid's in daycare while the play is going on. So really just Saturday, the last day of the tournament. And then because the club is like really family oriented, and I've talked to you, AQ, about this as well. And Chris, you saw it when you were here. The last day when they do this pool party for the end of the tournament, all the families are invited to that as well of the people participating. So like my wife, she brings our kid out to the pool. They have food and everything. So it's like, it's actually not bad overall. And having those days, those 3 of the 4 days being while the kid's in daycare, it makes it pretty nice actually.
Yeah, that is nice.
That's super cool.
That sounds awesome.
I've got quite I would say, month of golf ahead of me. So some really good golf content coming your way, guys. So
yeah, you're coming my way for some of that, right?
That's right. Next weekend, I just got invited to the Burt Nash Invitational, which is at Craigburn Country Club here in Western New York. One of the premier, I would say probably the top competitive private course in the area. The New York State
like
Amateur.
link style too, right? Like,
yeah, it's a doozy. It does not really fit my game particularly well. Very narrow fairways, trouble pretty much everywhere. So it's a two-man best ball tournament from the tips, which play at about 7,100 yards. So it's, and the greens are going to be rolling at like 13, 14. It's going to be an absolute bear. The winner of the New York State amateur, Billy Haynes, he's the defending champion from last year. Good buddy of mine. So I'll be playing in that. It's 36 holes on Friday, 18 holes on Saturday.
Legit.
Then the following week, the 20th, I will be playing in in our Roswell Park. Wanaka runs a 100-hole event. So I'll be walking 100 holes on Thursday, June 20th. I have.
I'm gonna get back to you on that about caddy,
Yes,
unless you've
I do
already
need a
filled my
caddy.
spot.
No, I have not. I have stretch, chiropractic, PT set up for before, PT, massage, and acupuncture set up for the day after. So I am prepping my body to hopefully get myself through that. Then the following week, 4 days later, I leave for North Carolina. Me and a couple of buddies were driving down. But we've got a group of, what's the group at right now? 30 guys all together that will be going down. So there's 2 optional rounds. Tot Hill is the first optional round on Monday. We are not going to do Tot Hill. Tuesday is the Tobacco Road trip, which I will never miss Tobacco Road. So we're going to play 36 Tobacco. We'll play in the morning and then get the replay in the afternoon. Then we finish our trip. We'll drive down to Myrtle Beach where we're playing the Legends properties. There's like 6 or 7 courses down there. Super stoked to play those. I get back, then I'm back for a couple of days, the 4th of July. Then I'm going to Cross Creek with my dad on another 30-person golf trip, which is as fun of a golf trip as I'll have all year. And then the end of the month is the greatest competitive amateur tournament in Western New York, the Ganson Invitational at Wanaka Country Club. 4 days. Thursday, you play your basically you qualify for what flight you'll be in. 2 years ago, the first year I did this event, we won our flight, which was, I think, the 3rd flight. Last year, we did too much drinking. So we decided this year we're going to be a little bit more strict. I also came in as a 6 handicap last year, and I did not play to my 6. Right now, as some of you might know, my handicap is inflated a bit to an 8.87, which is the highest it's been in about a year. So I'm looking at that as a positive because that should play really well for when I'm playing in some competitive tournaments.
Don't get accused.
Some people call that sandbagging.
Some people do. Like my Arcos. I don't know if I know I showed AQ. Arcos went ahead and shot me I got a little notification. It said, Nate, your high, index is up to an 8.8. You're either sandbagging or here are 3 tips to help you not suck so much, essentially, which I was like, wow, shots fired. But obviously,
get right to it.
Listen, obviously with me, I've been fighting through. It's been a really weird start. The start of the year, I had so much momentum built up. I was hitting the driver the best I've hit it really in my life. And post-injury, it was 3 weeks until I really got to swing a club again. And just how much weaker my shoulder is and the right side of my body is. For a while, it was like I was swinging with a dead arm. And that's the confidence hasn't really been there. I lost it. I would tell you that the first 9 holes on Tuesday, I had genuine thoughts of taking a little bit of a break and pulling myself away. And then, I shot even par on the back and I'm like, it pulls me right back in. And
you can't quit it. You can't.
And here's the thing, guys, and I'll tell this to anybody that plays that plays at the frequency that this group plays at is I know some of the best golfers I know will go through stretches of golf similar, and they won't be injury related. They'll just go through stretches where they lose it. Right now, the only thing I was able to do while I was injured was practice chipping. Yesterday's round, I hit 4 fairways in reg. On my Arcos app, I compare everything to a scratch. I know you guys are kind of comparing to a 10 or a 8 here. I was a plus 2.3 in my short game yesterday. I had like 5 tap-in pars, basically where I'm walking up and it's tapping in. So the short game's keeping me alive. I'm finding my way with the driver again, and tilt. I'm the same way as you, man. If I could hit more greens in regulation, I would be consistently in that mid 70s range where I feel like I should be. But I'm just struggling to put all the pieces together, and that's not news to anybody that plays a lot. That's the hardest part.
That's everybody. This
is the argument I constantly am having with people when they talk about like how to teach the game, whether it's to kids or people, and it's ball striking, it's hitting irons, and it's shrinking that dispersion literally across the board. If you listen to Lou Stagner, you find your own data, you talk to people about their data if they're tracking it. Everyone's probably weakest part of their game is approach. Yeah. Right. Like that's where you're going to have big cones of dispersion, not getting enough green in regulation. If you can get that, that's the low hanging fruit to score is,
And
and
I don't
that goes
know.
across to the pros. Like, look at Scotty Scheffler. The reason Scotty Scheffler is so freaking good
It's because
is
he's
that
so,
dispersion and with his irons.
and that's why Xander Schauffele's so good. As I think
Right.
those two probably in Morikawa are your top 3 iron players in the world.
Yeah.
And it's no shock to me that Morikawa is sort of back in the conversation again. Obviously really looking forward to next week. Pinehurst, I've played that course. It's a beauty. I want to ask you, I want to throw a question to you guys. Because, you know, I didn't really start playing until after I was done playing football in college. But when I was younger, I would play once or twice, 3 times most a year, right? I played when I was younger with my dad. The thing that I think I would say about myself now, as an adult who plays a lot of golf, is my patience with myself, and the anger that I have towards the game I've matured on the golf course a lot. When I was younger, I would get very frustrated, very upset. I've got buddies now that are very good golfers who hit it to 15 feet and it's like they're about to snap a club. You know what I mean? Because there's just that expectation. And I think that you have to find a line as a golfer, especially an amateur who doesn't play a lot, who's, you know, between a 5 and 15, 5 and 20, right? Like, you're not going to hit perfect shots every time. It's the most frustrating part of the game is when you hit a perfect shot and then the next shot is a duff, or the next shot. It's the most frustrating part of the game is you can hit shots like pros do once, twice, 3 times around. And then the rest around, you're like, where was that? Right. Where I say I've come the furthest is I would say I had the same exact demeanor when I shot 50 on the front and 36 on the back. And my playing partner, she said the same thing to me. She was like, I've got to give you credit. I don't know that I would have been able to put my head down, walk out of the golf cart with the same demeanor after a triple bogey that you did after you birdied. And I think younger players, and the reason I want to ask you this is, I mean, all of us probably come across players, play with people, know people, or just been on the golf course where you're playing in front of or behind guys, that the younger players seem to be very volatile. They very angry. I got buddies that'll break clubs all over the place. I can't tell you the last time where yesterday, in fairness, I did, you know, put a club into the rough. There's no doubt I did that. I mean, I duffed a shot and it was just angry. But that's probably the most emotion I've shown on a golf course in 5 years. Do you guys notice it with younger players, like the 17 to 25, or those? They tend to be the most volatile during a round, where I think me in my 30s, I'm as calm, as cool, as collected as I could possibly be on a golf course. And I think it allows me to be the type of person that can have such a bad front, but then follow it up with a really strong back.
I'll start out here a little bit because I was similar. I played in high school and I had huge expectations for what my golf should look like, and they weren't grounded in reality. And now that Mark Brody developed strokes gained, and you have people that break that down, and you have guys like Lou Stagner, John Sherman, who, if you're not following them online, when I'm playing with my group, I have a few people that get pretty frustrated, even in their 30s. I play with older gentlemen as well. I don't know that there's an age range on frustration, but I know I play with a lot of golfers that the expectation of what golf should like is not grounded in reality of what amateur recreational golf actually is. And I would encourage everyone to follow people like Mark Brody, like Lou Stagner, like John Sherman, to redefine the expectations of what amateur golf actually looks like. Because if you're just on Twitter, you're just talking to people, I think a lot of people overestimate their own ability. I talk to a lot of people that are like, yeah, I drive the ball 300 yards. And no, you don't. You do not do that. I do know some people that do, but it's not the average, right? Like, I'm pushing towards a 10 index right now, and that's driving on average 233, 235. And that's high. Like, when the other people I play with are still struggling around that 220. And that's the average. That's like the male average is 220. And so I think a lot of people have false expectations of what their golf should look like. And then they don't have real expectations of what shots should be. And so, like, Lou's got a great newsletter, and every week he comes out with some little data point, and it'll be like, how often does a scratch player take 4 shots to get to hole out from 129 yards out? And like the one this morning was like, how often does it take them 4 shots to hole out from 129 yards in the fairway? And that was like 38% of the time. And you wouldn't think that a scratch golfer would take 4 shots to hole out from 129 that often. Golf is so hard, and people are way too hard on themselves, in my opinion, on what the expectation should be, what dispersion really looks like for amateurs and recreational golfers. Especially, we talk about how often we're out golfing. And so we're expecting improvements and we're expecting our game to get better and the dispersion to come down. But if you're just a weekend warrior that has kids, has a family, you don't get to practice, and you're only going out 8 to 10 times a year or something like that, you can't roll out to a golf course and expect to hit shots that you see on TV. And that's another thing. I think people watch professional golf, and professional golf, when you're watching it on TV, is a highlight reel, right? Like, you're not even getting the real version of what professional golf looks like. Like, you see only 300-yard drives and people holing out from all over the course. And the average drive, like, only 20% of people are driving 300 yards, even in the pros. Like, golf is super hard. And I don't know that, I think more people would be better for themselves in the experience of golf to see what the expectations of, if you're a 20 something index, what does that actually look like in terms of dispersion and stuff like that? I think that would help them.
Cap, you want to go?
Or Cap?
No, I mean, you guys said it. Like, I think that it's tough, and I think, you know, Nate talking about how we feel when we're younger versus as we've had a little more time. Eric, I had Eric's comment on the screen for a while there. He was talking about how he's a much better golfer at 56 than he was when he was in high school. Part of that is, I'm sure, just general maturity and life experience. Like, things trend up quite a bit from, you know, in terms of your abilities from the time you're a kid up until, you know, into your early 20s. And when you start to hit that, like, that physical adversity, when things start to plateau or even move backwards, it can be tough to deal with. And I think as you get a little bit beyond that, you start to recognize that things aren't always going to be trending upwards, and you learn to kind of deal with the peaks and valleys a little bit better and sort of level out your own perspective on your game.
Yeah, I mean, I was even playing with a guy. We were paired up with a guy in our final day this past weekend in the tournament. I mean, this guy was like a 5 or 6 handicap, and I mean, he like bogeyed a hole, and he just like picked up his golf ball and like swung at it like a baseball bat with his club, and like to just like get rid of his ball. And I'm just like, man, and this guy's probably like in his late 20s, right? Mid 20s. And so I know for me personally, I've definitely gotten a lot calmer on the course as well. And for me, I'm very much like a momentum golfer anyway. Like, if I get rolling, I tend to kind of do okay.
My nickname is Tempo Town. I get it.
If I'm in a rut, if I'm like on the bogey train or something and I can't get off it, like, I used to get really upset, but now I'm just like, look, like, at the end of the day, I'm out here playing golf, and it's like, I'm really, in my mind, I'm just playing against myself, right? So it's like, no one else cares what I'm doing. So like, I'm not going to care as much. I mean, obviously, the expectations and seeing these things from Lou and like different things like that have really helped me as well, as like, hey, like, you're not as bad. And like, the other part of it too is like the guys that like in my weekend group and that are out here at this club, like, I'm not the worst of all of them, but I'm playing with a lot of guys who are plus handicaps.
I'm the same way.
And are like 1 or 2 handicaps. And I'm literally playing with guys who, like, a guy I played with last weekend, he played an event on the PGA Tour, right? Like, these guys are like shooting 68, 70
clinical,
on
and it's just every shot's the same. It's like
a different game than we play.
It can be hard. Tilt. That's like such an interesting like thought process and conversation about like who you play with, like and when I constantly play with guys that are better than me for the most part, and when I play with guys that are worse, you get such a unique perspective on your game when you go from one round with guys, especially if you're consistently playing with really good players. And like, you know, this morning I'm at PT, and one of the guys there, and my PT is very good. He's my playing partner for Burt Nash next week. And, you know, he's like, what's your bad day? You shoot a 74. What do you feel? And he's like, oh, that's a shit day. 74 is a shit day at Craigburn, which is like a 73 rating. Right. And I'm like, a 74, 75 is, I am, after that round, having
I'm getting my
15 high
ball
noons.
bronzed. if
I'm
I
having
should.
15 high noons. That's like I'm doing that 3 times a year, hitting that 74, 75 mark, right? And for me, a bad round is kind of what I've been playing lately in the 80s and in the high 80s, mid 80s. And when you go and play with someone who struggles to break 90, struggles to break 100, I wonder who do you play better? Like what guy do you play better with?
It's a very interesting question, right? Because I actually tend to play better when I'm playing with the better players, but
Agreed.
the mindset is like it's different, right? I play better, but in my mind I'm like, wow, like I'm really not good, even though I'm like a 10 index and like that's better than a lot of people, right? But then when I play with people worse than me, I'm like, I almost maybe don't play as good because maybe I don't know if I'm not as focused or I'm like it, like I'm just like it's a lot more like casual maybe in some of those scenarios because we're like trying to think about other things like keeping up the pace or like helping them with like explaining the rules or things like that where it's like maybe my game slips a little, but I know I'm still gonna like end up shooting better than them, which is whatever. But it's like I actually think I tend to play better when I'm playing with people who are better than me.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually something I talked about with a friend of mine who I'm actually mad at. He's in my golf group and he's like you, Nate. He's like a 5 to 6 index, hits similar to you, has that distance. And I love playing with him. He was my partner in our match play event. And I play my best golf when I'm in a cart with him, hanging out. And and he never makes me feel like my golf game's inferior. Like he's always encouraging too. And so that helps as well. But I was talking to him. Yeah, because there's been a few times lately where I've come off a really good round. And one of my best rounds this year, I was paired with a guy, really nice dude, Scott Dean. Shout out to Scott. And I've been playing with him a lot more. And he's really good. And we were just hitting shot for shot. And it was good conversation. We were just flowing. We played like a 3-hour 18. And it was the best round I've had in a long time. And then the next day I played with a group, I got paired with a group and these guys weren't very good. One of the guys was struggling to hit 150 like consistently. And I was getting super frustrated. They were very nice guys. But I find for me personally that like duffs and bad shots are like contagious and it rubs out. Like if I see people hitting poorly and I see frustration and bad shots, I almost feel that and it leaks into my game a little bit. And I kind of want to go side by like when I'm playing with good people, how am I scoring versus when I'm playing with people that are really struggling on a course, what's my game look like? Because I do think, everyone says play with better players to get better. And it feels that when I'm out on the course.
Well, now we know why your Byrncliff round was a little bit not up to par.
It's like when somebody yawns, it's like when somebody yawns, all of a sudden you're yawning,
Yeah, right.
Yes. No, the Byrncliff got me because the difference in course for sure.
It's funny for me, like when I know a course, when I know where to miss, I feel there's that level of confidence.
It's a big difference.
And I think, Aaron, you're probably the frequency in which you're playing, you're a year away from probably wanting to start playing in more competitive, whether it's 2-man scrambles that are, Buffalo District Golf 2-man. Like I played with a follower of mine. We just ended up getting paired together for the Buffalo District Golf 2-man earlier in the month right after I hurt myself. Matt Taylor, great dude, right? And amateur golfer, kind of 10, 11 handicap. And that's kind of the handicap range where you're going to start wanting to play in tournaments, team tournaments that have a little bit of stake to it, where you're playing by the USGA rules and you're getting in more tense situations. And Jesse, who teaches both of us, always talks about finding ways to create pressure within your casual rounds, whether it's putting skins on it, playing Nassau, playing Wolf, putting yourself into competitive situations.
Wolf is fun.
Because the thing that I think I'm most frustrated with myself is when I get and I play in these competitive situations, I tighten up and I'm not nearly as confident with myself. I'm gripping the club too tight. I'm overthinking my swings. You put me in a scramble situation where I'm not thinking about whether or not hitting out of bounds is in play. I swing.
You're just playing like an athlete.
I swing free. There's no bad, swing thoughts. I think too, with me is I've got to try to find the zone when I'm getting into these rounds. And sometimes that can be hard when you're going out to play 18 with friends. That's why I like walking. Walking keeps me grounded. It keeps me thinking constantly while I'm on the course, thinking about my shot as I walk up to it. I also really love playing with people that are constantly talking the game of golf. I don't know how you guys are like when I'm out there, like, hey, when we're up at the driving range at the practice green, how's the day? How's the kids? How's the wife? Blah, blah, blah. And then when we get on the golf course, I want to talk about strategy. I want to talk about what you're thinking on a shot. I want to get your opinion on what this line is. I want to get your philosophy on, hey, laying up versus going for it. Hey, we're going to play this par 4 like it's a par 5 because it's long. And here's how my strategy to go in. So it's like, I think a lot of who you play with, how you converse, and your sort of mindset on the golf course. I that's where, to me, as where I am, and Aaron, I could just tell by how much you're playing, how much you love the game, and the freedom you're going to have as your kids start getting older and getting into school. You're going to have these days to yourself where you're like, man, I'm going to play every damn day. You're going to start to get that feeling where you're like, I want to take this to a more serious setting. And when you do, you sort of quickly realize the shift you have in mentality, and I want to start making that mentality more regular.
I'm super jealous when you and Till are sitting here talking about the competitive rounds. And actually, I've been being recruited here in town by both the Sheridan Men's Club and the Brighton Men's Club, and they're almost fighting over me. I'm not a very good golfer,
awesome, but you really should do them. They're so fun.
Yes. And so the gentleman that I was playing with, Scott, he's in the men's club at Brighton, and I do think I'm going to join because every week you have to post a round and you get access to gin, and then they have like tournaments and stuff like that, and it has a level of competitiveness baked into it. And the one thing I miss, high school, my favorite thing was match play. I love match play golf. Like, individual stroke play is cool, but playing match for match, and my neighbor's in a league and he keeps recruiting me to come play and be just even an alternate. And they play at Grover, and it's match play event. And I love that, going back and forth in match play. So I'm definitely getting the itch for the more competitive style, because it does. I'm not like an uberly competitive alpha, but there is something that drives me about that one-on-one competition. Before we get into, we've kind of hit on some pet peeves a little bit here, but before we get into power ranking our pet peeves, Chris, how has your golf been since we last checked in when we were
not so great. Well, I mean, I just, on what Nate was saying about who you play with, I've noticed that I play better with people that I don't know. And I think that's kind of, as I work to get better at the game, when I play with people that I like, friends or family, and I'm feeling, I've been improving, my scores have been going down, and then I play with people I know, and like, I get excited to show out well, and it just kind of falls apart. Like, two of my worst rounds in the last 12 months have been playing with my brother-in-law, who's always been a much better golfer than me, and I get excited like, oh, maybe I'll strike the ball well today, and it'll be good. And then no, I'm just stuffing shots left and right, and I get into my own head, and it's rough. So that was, the round I played earlier this week, where I've been consistently within this like 95 to 105 range, and kind of continually edging down, which has been great. I shot a 114 in this round with my family, and it was so frustrating. It's like tough to get out of that mindset. But part of it was, I could feel my back was tight, and no matter what I did leading up to the round, I couldn't really get it to loosen up. I was hitting behind the ball consistently, like hitting the ground.
One of those days recently. Yep.
Like 3 inches behind the ball. It was so weird. Like, the practice swing would be nice and smooth, and then I'd get up and, to actually hit it, and I'd completely miss, and it was tough. But the putting has been great. Actually, that's been the one strength of my game. I'm actually gaining strokes there against my target handicap. I had a round with so this terrible 114 round actually was my personal best on Arcos in terms of most 1 putts, fewest 3 putts, which was nice. But yeah, my driver, I don't know what's going on with that, but all of a sudden I'm averaging, I think in that round that I played this week, I was averaging like 160 with the driver, which is just completely foreign to me. Like, I didn't keep a driver in the bag for a long time because I had this horrendous slice. I was hitting 3-wood off the tee like years ago, and I got a driver that I liked. I've been
I'm pretty
playing
sure I
pretty
convinced
consistently
you
with it.
to
Yeah,
put the
you
driver
did.
back in.
You
Yeah.
convinced me to like actually get a driver that worked for me, and it was working for me until when I played with you over the weekend there, and I was hitting, I had been hitting the slice forever. Then I was sort of hitting a draw off the tee over the last few months, and it was still in control, hitting fairways and hitting decent distance. All of a sudden, I'm hooking left, terribly missing left, like over half the shots off the tee, and I got
Chris,
to figure out what's going on.
Are you shortening your swing because you're trying to hit it straight?
I'm not sure.
Because I have found that when I shorten my backswing because I'm trying to find accuracy, I'm trying to find the center of the face, I'm willing to sacrifice distance in order to hit it straight. That's where I tend to get the early action, and I'm releasing the club early, and that face is closing, and then you go toe with a closed face outside of the ball. You're going to hit those low left screamers where it's almost like you'd rather keep that full swing and take a little off of it just to make sure that you're finding your way back to the slot. I see that is where my miss left. I know I'm at the point in my game where if I have a miss, I sort of know what I did. And then even though I know what I did, it's hard to correct that in the middle of a round sometimes. You know what I mean? It's like, but at the same time, you're like, okay, I just need to keep my swing. That's why I'm telling you guys, like, last year, the thing that did it for me, the reason that I need to get back there is going to the range. Even there'll be a lot of people that talk about the game of golf, that coach the game of golf, that's saying going to the driving range and just hitting golf balls isn't always a productive use of your time because you're not really simulating shots. You're just hitting golf shots. But there is something to be said about reps, about trying to find your way to the same swing over and over and over again. And then hitting a ball, getting the feedback, and seeing if you can replicate that exact same thing time and time again, and then just repping those out. But I would tell you that, I'm a big proponent of hitting the range before a round. That's because my back is terrible and I need to get it moving. I know, Aaron, you're not really hitting the range. You're walking out there, warming up a little bit and getting out. But definitely something to maybe work on, Chris, is just making sure you keep a long backswing and you're not shortening it up too much. Because I guarantee you're consciously thinking, if I shorten the swing, I'm reducing the margin for error, right? I'm reducing the areas where I'm losing my club in my swing, and if I keep it in this pendulum, then it'll stay straight, even though if I'm sacrificing yardage. You just tend to be, it tends to be harder to control the face. You tend to close it faster.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I know,
Thanks, man.
I want to go through real quick because I am playing a ton, so I want to update. Since Byrncliff had a tough round, driver, I think Chris can attest, my driver was actually working for me pretty well. Which last time we were on the show, I even had I called myself the slice machine because all of a sudden, I think it was fatigue. I played almost 7 days in a row, and my fatigue set in, and I was getting a little lazy with my hips, and things were happening, and my slice came back in a really bad way, and that's super frustrating for how much work I've put in to reduce that, even working with Jesse and trying to get that club path more inside out. And I still have a draw even when I'm hitting well, but for my miss to be the slice, I'm okay with that. But when 8 drives around or slicing, it's just super frustrating. And I don't throw clubs or anything like that, but it definitely sits in my head. And I think I've reduced that quite a bit. And I got my average driving up to like 240, 250, hitting some in that 260 to 270 range. So that felt good. Right now under Arcos, my driving's at an 11 index, which is where I'm at an 11. My short game's at an 11. That's dropped down a little bit since earlier in the season. And I was having about a 2-week stretch where I felt like I lost my putter and my feel on the greens almost entirely. There was a stretch where every once in a while, Nate, to your point, you are comparing to a scratch. Every once in a while, I'll change the filters and see like how far off from scratch golf am I really? And it's bad. I'm quite far off from it. But early in the season, my putting was like a 3 index, and I had a really good feel. To Tilt's point all the time, like that confidence factor on the greens was like I felt like I was almost like playing Mario Golf, and you can see the slope in the green. I could see the line, and I'm putting to it. And then I just totally lost it for like 2.5 weeks. I had no confidence. My pace was all over the place. I've slowly got that back over the last week. And so my putting index is at a 9. Actually, I've been putting pretty well. But my approach, and I actually hit Jesse up last night from Buffalo Golf and Social because
I just texted him.
Yeah, I showed him my
reminded me.
data, and I was like, dude, I got to get back in the lab with you because I've already put over 1,000 shots into Arcos in the 45-day trial period. I've played 21 rounds, so I've got a good data set. And what he looked at my swing and told me I needed to fix was exactly it's playing out in the data. And my approach is at a 16 index right now, and my goal for the year, as we talked about the goals, was to be at a 14 to 15, and I've blown by that. And I think I'm an 11 to 12 index golfer with my game right now and where I stand. But because a game of golf is that goal setting and constant chasing, like I think I'm a sub double digit golfer inside myself. I have that, and all that's going to take is fixing this approach game and fixing my ball striking. And so I want to get that 16 down. So I got to get back to Jesse and work on that and get some drills and stuff like that. But that's the tilts point. Like that approach game is super difficult for recreational golfers. And to your point, Nate, like I could go to the range and just hit with my 6-iron, hit with my 7-iron, and work on that 150 to 100 range and try to get that dispersion better. But I am hitting enough shots out on the golf course with putting up 1,000 over the last couple of months here to be able to work on that. But I really got to drill it into my body to fix. I'm a scooper, and I got to get away from the scoop, and I got to create better impact. So that's where my game's at right now, is I'm trying to chase those 100 to 150 yard approach shots and stop missing left and stop missing deep, and just get myself even just on the green. I don't need to be within 30 feet of the pin. I got to get myself on the green and putting, because my putting is actually helping me.
So you said you had how many logged shots? Do you see mine?
Jesus.
Oh, wow.
35,000 shots logged on this thing.
Yeah. That's over what time period? How long have you been using it?
3 years, 3.5 years.
Yeah,
448 rounds.
I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you.
10,000 shots a year or plus. So Aaron, do you think that that Jesse at Buffalo Golf and Social could help someone who's a high handicapper like me, or do I need to?
Yes.
Instantly.
Yes.
I walked away from there. So I had and not to go too long onto this, I had a session with him. Nate knows about it. And it was pretty dramatic what he did. He said, you don't have to do anything, right? I think you can get to the goals that you have with the game that you've got and the swing that you've got. But if you really want to be a better golfer and play even the way like a Nate Geary plays, you're going to have to make these changes. But even without making all the changes, like that, fixing my slice and the driver all came from advice from Jesse, and it was setting up the right way and is getting that path inside out. I do some stuff. He's got me doing these drills with yoga blocks and alignment sticks that is just constantly repping, getting that path right. And so when I do start to slice, I slow things down, and it's like, all right, let's get that path the right way. And you see the results almost instantly. And here's one, dude, the other day on the course, I already had a round that was getting a little away from me. And so I was like, I'm going to work on course, which I told myself I wasn't going to do. Some of the stuff Jesse told me about, bringing that more into the pocket, keeping it a little bit more compressed on my irons and my normals. So I was in a spot where I had a approach, and Arcos was telling me to pull out the 7-iron, and I flushed this 7-iron like I've never hit it. And it went like 185 over the green, and I didn't even hit it that hard. But that's what Jesse was telling. Like when I hit my 8-iron with him, it was going like 130. And he's like, your 8-iron should be going a lot further than that if you were hitting the ball the right way, and you shouldn't have to hit it hard. And so I do think no matter what your index is, I just told Pat Moran, good friend of Cover One and our show, his son's getting into golf for the first time. And he's an athlete. He was a football player. He played D3 football. Like, this kid's a big kid. He's an athlete. He can swing hard. And when he gets a hold of the ball, it's cool. But he's inconsistent. He's having issues. He wants to get better. And Pat was sending me all these training aids. And he's like, I want to get my kid stuff. I want to invest in him. I said, contact Jesse. Get a hold of Jesse and get your kid in some lessons right now. Forget the training aids. Forget the videos online. Don't go on YouTube. Get with a good instructor, and I guarantee you that is going to have improvement. I got a buddy in my golf group. He's only played for a year and a half. He's double bogeying all the time. He's frustrated. He bought a new driver. He bought a new putter. It helped a little bit, but I was like, dude, get a hold of Jesse. It doesn't have to be Jesse. Get a hold of a good There's so many in Western New York, good PGA pros. Get with a lesson. Have somebody look at your swing and help you, even if it's small fixes of, hey, you're bending your elbow too much, or you're not getting your hips around here. Like, there's just stuff. I thought I had a good looking swing, but when somebody slows it down and knows what they're talking about, they can show you exactly what you should be doing. Not saying don't swing your own swing, but there's definitely ways to improve. So, yeah, Chris, I think everyone, no matter your index, should be getting lessons somewhat frequently and working with a coach on some frequent basis.
Yeah, I'll be up there late next month. I'll have to get in touch.
Hit him up, man. I actually won a gift card, and so I am going to get together. He said he's cleaning up his schedule here in a couple weeks. I'm going to use my gift card and get back in the lab with him and see if I can't fix this approach game that I'm going through. So real quick here, because we are running up to the hour, and I do got to go. This show was actually about pet peeves. This is something that Tilt, you and I have talked about a ton. I'm always texting you when I'm in rounds, and something will come up, and I'm like, these jerks in front of me, or somebody just hit on me. Like, what's going on? I want to run through here. We're going to power rank our top 5 golf pet peeves and give a little bit of clarity on them. So, Chris, you want to start, and then we'll work.
I don't really want to start,
and then I'll finish.
Do I have to start?
No, Tilt can start since this was Tilt's idea. Go for it.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, I'll start with number 5. So number 5 for me, it kind of gets on something Nate was just talking about. And so for me, number 5 is feeling rushed before a round. I don't like showing up late to the course. Obviously, I'm in a very fortunate situation here where we have a range, multiple putting, whatever, right? So I like to get up to the course, get a good warm up in, putt, get loose before the round. I hate being out of the trunk, going up to the tee, feeling tight, whatever, not getting a warm up in before my round. So that's number 5 for me. Number 4 is I had put like kind of what you had put on the Twitter handle, like people who don't fix their pitch marks, but I think it's generally just more people who don't respect the course itself, whether it's not raking bunkers, not fixing pitch marks. Like,
do you get much of that in the country club world?
Well, this is where I was going to get to, right? Because where I am, it's like, okay, if you're playing on a public course, maybe you don't give a shit about that course. Like, I don't understand it, but I can see why people wouldn't. Here, I don't get why people do it, right? This is your own course. You fix yours, fix a friend's, right, on the green. Rake the bunkers. Like, don't drive into wet areas. And the problem I have with it is the people here that do that kind of shit are the same people who will then complain that the conditions aren't great on the court. And it's like, you're playing in pristine conditions and you're going to complain when you're contributing to some of that. So that's number 4 for me. Number 3, and this is like more related to my own personal golf game, 3 putting. Absolutely a pet peeve of mine. Putting is probably the best part of my game. And that may be like not common for amateurs. Like putting is definitely the best part of my game. I keep my hole by hole on GIN. Over the last 3-4 years, my 2 putts or better percentage is like 95%, 96%. So for me, when I 3 putt, it's really annoying, especially because, as I talked about earlier, I don't hit the most greens. So the worst thing that for me when it compounds is when I don't hit a green and then I also 3 putt, because that typically results in a double bogey, right? So for me, 3 putting is up there. Number 2, people that cheat, right? People that cheat, sandbaggers, and playing in a lot of competition play at the club here. I see it. I saw it happen last weekend, even in the opponents I was playing with. Oh, here's our ball. Oh, we found it. Oh, here it is. Oh, like not keeping this is more so, I guess, for competition play and related to handicaps and things like that than if you're out just for a casual round. But man, people that cheat, especially in competition play, whether it's with their gaming their handicap or actually on the course trying to cheat, that really bothers me. And then number 1, and I think we all can agree this is going to be somewhere on our list, slow pace of play and just the general self-awareness on the golf course, whether it's your own group keeping up, right? And so your own group, you got to be aware of that. Or the groups in front of you who are just like not respecting the rest of the field or respecting the rest of the tee times of that day, slowing everything down, and just having just no courtesy for the people behind them. And by the way, this also applies to rangers out there who are not doing their jobs and making people keep up, right?
For
and
starters,
so
putting out
yeah, it's just like, so the general sort of topic of pace of play, to me, we're fortunate here at the club here. Generally, pace is not an issue. Sometimes in tournaments that's an issue because that's just the nature of it. But in public golf, it's definitely probably more of an issue. I'm used to ideally playing in under 4 hours, even as a foursome for 18. When you start getting those 5 hour rounds or even over 5 to 5.5, that I like a good pace. I like a good rhythm. I don't like sitting around waiting. And just anything that kind of comes along with that general theme of pace of play is my number one.
Nate, how about you? Where
Sure.
your power
I'll
ranking?
start with number 5. This might be picky. This is why I hate public golf courses, is when they post a price on their website and then there's an additional price for the cart. I just want to
Some of them actually charge each person.
Yes.
There's not like a cart price. It's a
when I see a price, that's the price I want to pay. Just put everything in there. Give me what I'm going to pay. So that's number 5. Tilt mentioned pace of play. This is a part of pace of play, but number 4 is understanding what tee boxes you should be playing from. A lot of courses, Glen Oak has like 8 tee boxes, right? They've got so many options. I see people in amateurs that are high handicaps playing from the second tee box, the golds in most places, the one up from the tips, that will create longer rounds, higher scores. Know where you should be playing based on your handicap. And it's okay if some of your group is playing at one tee box and you play at another. It's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So understanding and playing at the right tee boxes, taking care of the golf course, divots. I try to, every round that I play, when I get to the green, I fix my divot and I try to fix at least one. If there's 2 by me, I'll fix 2 of them. And knowing how to properly fix a divot is another thing too.
That's a big one.
You don't twist the grass. You don't, try to get it up. It's all about just pushing the divot in on itself, and then using your club to flatten it out. So fixing divots and doing it the right way is my third one. Number 2 for me, and I think this is part of being on the course and understanding the course, but where to place the rakes. I think this is like one thing that really frustrates me is when people put rakes inside of sand traps. Our club,
I hit a rake the other day, and
our club is they're outside the sand traps, and the reason is the last thing you want to do is hit into a rake or hit into a spot where the rake stops it and puts it into a bad position or what have you. So to me, and also rake up the fucking thing after you, especially greenside bunkers, please just rake your spots up because it makes for really difficult shots. And number 1 for me, I don't want to sound like a golf elitist here. But number 1, you said what?
We all know you are. You can be honest with us here.
Divots. For whatever reason, there is a lot of conjecture. There's a lot of opinion about what you do with a divot. You should never replace your divot. You should fill your divot with sand or whatever comes on the cart.
Yeah.
This happens at my club all the time. And this happens at really nice clubs. I see people take a big giant divot, they go and grab it, and then they're stomping it back in place. And I'm like, yo, those just get sucked up by the mowers and they fuck up the equipment. Any good course, any good superintendent will tell you, just fill your divot with sand or the seed that we provide you. If you're walking, they usually at the courses should have like areas either at your turn or at the start of the thing where you can grab one, throw it in your bag if you know you're a divot taker. That's what I try to do. But yeah, replacing your divot is not what you should be doing. You should be filling it with seed and sand.
I am so glad you talked about it. Honestly, I want to do a whole episode on maintenance because it was something that we were actually taught. Our coach in golf, he was really cool about like, you can be bad, but you got to be fast, and etiquette like that. Every year to start it was like talking about pace of play, and he had the grounds crew come out with us and show us how to fix ball marks and show us how to work with divots. And I yell at people all the time when they take big chunks and just put it back and stomp on it. One, like, you're not putting it directionally correct, and 2, it doesn't really do what you think it does. Like you're not going to grow back. Like the roots don't just grow. You just leave a dead mark that's going to get mowed up tomorrow anyway. I play so much public golf that they don't actually provide you with what you're talking about, where sand. So I was talking to my friend that I've been playing with lately, and I push a cart, so I'm gonna actually add a sand, one of those little sand things, to my bag. So I'm not a big divot taker. Part of the problem with my approach play is that I'm not taking enough divots. But when I do, I want to have the sand to fill it, because I do think so. I love that take from you. I'll piggyback off here and get through my 5 here. Number 5 for me is cart golf. We actually had this conversation on Twitter earlier. I hate it. I hate being in a cart. I end up having too much stuff spread out. I'm disorganized because of that. For me, I like walking with my push cart. I hit a ball, I beeline to my ball. Nate, to your point, like I'm mentally preparing as I approach my shot. Another thing is when I play with foursomes, a lot of public courses, I think cart golf actually slows down pace of play in a lot of times when people are, Nate or Tilt, you're muted. If you were trying to say something, Tilt, you were muted there. Okay. I think that the carts can slow down pace if people are hitting on opposite sides of a big fairway and you're going back and forth, and not everybody is ready to shoot. When I'm playing with 4 dudes and we're all walking, we all walk up to our balls. One guy shoots, the next guy shoots. Everybody's moving forward. We're advancing. So carts work into pace of play for me. So I dislike cart golf. Number 4, Nate, you talked about it earlier, angry golfers. There's nothing more annoying to me than playing with somebody that's just cussing every time he duffs a shot and not being a very good golfer, and then you're expecting to be better than you actually are. I hate it. I think it stinks. So angry golfers, I want nothing to do with you. It ruins the round for me. And then number 3 is pace of play. This is something I texted Tilt about the other day when I was playing. I'm a single. And again, this is part of playing at public golf and stuff like that. So I get it. I'm a single dude and I'm out there and I'm making great pace. And I run up to a group of YouTube looking golfers. They all got their good hats on and their joggers and stuff like that. And they're a foursome and I'm a single. And I approach the tee box and they're still teeing off. And these dudes don't even make eye contact with me. And they get in their carts and they zip off. And they don't even like, hey, do you, and actually, it wasn't even a foursome, it was a threesome, but they had 2 carts and they weren't even like, hey, do you want to join us and get this pace going? Or, hey, do you want to play through? Because it's only going to take me, even as bad of a golfer as I can be at times, it takes me about 5 minutes to get through a hole by myself. So, and I could be out of your way and on with my round. There's no one in front of them. And so that not letting pass, pace of play, or when people are behind you. I had these guys in front of me, they were playing, and I had a group of young golfers behind me hitting into me on my second shot. And I'm not a short driver, and I'm not a bad player. I play pretty fast. And for them to be hitting into me is just like, it's not good. I've seen people get very hurt at golf courses getting hit with a ball. And I've seen people actually lose lawsuits. If you hit somebody with a ball, like, you are liable for that. So like, be careful if you're out there hitting. So that's 1. 2, ball marks is a big one. I don't care so much about divots in the fairway because, to your point, Nate, I don't think people know how to fix them properly. I would rather have the grounds crew taking care of that stuff anyway. Public golf, I sort of expect it. I'm not playing in competition settings, so I don't play from, if I hit a divot in the fairway, I'm not going to penalize myself for hitting a fairway and then having to play out of a divot. I'm going to take that as a ground under repair. I'm going to roll it back a couple inches and play off the fairway. You can say that's cheating if you want. I don't care. I'm not playing from a divot because somebody else didn't know how to properly fix it. But ball marks bother me a lot more because that's something that should be easy to fix. You should know where it is. Everyone can do it properly. And it's just laziness and it's inconsiderate. And it's hard to putt. It's hard enough. People are stomping all over greens. We're not getting good reads all the time. And then when you add ball marks to it, again, if somebody leaves a huge ball mark, I go through fix 3 or 4 while I'm waiting to putt. But I will move my ball out of the way if somebody's got a big ball mark they didn't repair and it's in my way. I'm not going to be penalized for other people's inconsiderate use of the greens. And number 1, you guys probably in the country club world don't deal with this, but something that's wild to me and I never experienced till I got to Western New York. I've played a lot of golf before then. In Western New York, at almost every course I play that's a public course, especially in the summer, it's guaranteed that I'm going to see somebody had spit sunflower seeds on the greens.
Sunflower seeds and cigarettes.
And that was my thing. I got sunflower seeds and cigarette butts on the greens. And you have to be such a piece of crap to be so disrespectful and so entitled to do that type of stuff on the green. Because like I can fix a ball mark, but I don't want to like touch your spit out sunflower seeds and cigarette butts. Dude, it's 2024. First of all, who's still smoking actual cigarettes? Like get a vape and like leave us alone with your cigarette butts. But like to not have the common courtesy to not pollute and litter on the greens is just so, like, I don't care if it's public course. I don't care if it's a $12 round of golf. Like it's just such an inconsiderate thing to me that it drives me bonkers, dude. Drives me bonkers. Chris, how about you? What's your top 5?
All right, so from 5 to 1, courses that don't provide either water stations or some easy way to get water at the turn, whether it's a vending machine or a concession stand, or if they're not going to provide those things, like let you know in advance of the round. I've played rounds where I've run out of water and there's literally no way to replenish, and that's could be dangerous on a hot day. Leaving the rough too long is number 4 for me, especially on public courses that get mostly amateur golfers. It makes it harder to find balls, makes it harder to hit them well. It slows the pace. It's just, I feel like they could be doing a better job of making the game a little bit easier, making the pace a little quicker. I had course maintenance as number 3, not properly taking care of your ball marks and everything, leaving broken tees on the tee box is another one.
Actually, I don't mind that because I use stubs all the time. I collect them.
Well, so they, I mean, most courses will have like a little box or a little like cone or something that you can put them in, which pick up your tee and broken tee and put it in there. Like, don't just leave it wherever. Number 2 for me was people hitting into you. That drives me nuts. Especially if like we're waiting on people in front of us, like I hate feeling rushed. That it was a huge issue for me as I'm getting back into the game. I've gotten a little bit more tolerant of people, rushing from behind, but it still bothers me. And people hitting into you, like you mentioned already, it can be pretty dangerous. My biggest pet peeve, though, is people getting overly angry out on the course. It doesn't make any sense. It ruins the experience. Like, look, golf is frustrating. A little frustration is expected. Like, that's fine. But if you're every time you take a shot, you're, like you said, if you're swearing and just yelling, and I mean, maybe you just need to kind of reevaluate what you're doing with your spare time.
You got to get a new hobby. Yeah.
So
can I put an honorable mention one in here at the risk of like maybe pissing some people off?
Please.
I have it's irrational. I get it, but I have always been very annoyed with people that, and maybe some of you guys, you might now all of a sudden hate me. I've always been very annoyed with people that use the poker chip ball markers.
Yeah,
I don't like.
And the reason is because it's like that's actually not helping, because you will still need to move your marker if I go over it. Like, it's not a flat against the ground. Like,
I would rather you do the club length with a tee.
Yeah.
Or mark it club length with a tee or something and get out of the way.
Yeah. So I guess it's more of like, I don't like non-flat ball markers on the green. That I guess, and maybe it's irrational, but
I don't think it's irrational. I think it's a good call out.
No, it is. And actually, shout out here as we end this episode to Byrncliff. They have the little plastic ones with their logo on it, the little just plastic with a little spike. And those, in my opinion, are the GOAT of ball markers. Like, even the magnetic ones, I think sometimes, unless you pat it down, can be too raised.
You gotta push it a little bit. Yeah,
you got to push it in a little bit. Those other ones, I think, just flat right to it. I think if you're going to use a ball marker, it's got to be those old school plastic ones. So shout out to Byrncliff for filling my bag with those. And that's the golf life you guys live in. Country clubs, obviously, a lot of the time when you show up, they've got tees and ball markers like that, just ready to go. And I think those ones are the best. And yeah, again, shout out to Byrncliff here for being our sponsor of this show. Really appreciative. Got this sweet Titleist hat, guys, with their logo on the side. Real nice. I'm rocking that, loving it. And if you are looking to make a tee time out there, give them a call at 585-535-7300 or visit them online. We've got some nice weekends coming up here in Western New York, this is like premier golf weather. And if even with the rain that we've gotten, Nate, the most fun thing right now about golf in Western New York is conditions are playing like mid to late August, which if you're not a long hitter like myself, you can get some added length. Like I'm really only carrying the ball probably 220, 230, but I'm getting those 240 to 250 drives just out of getting some real August type bouncing conditions. Yeah, it feels good, man. Those are the opportunities to score and get those indexes down. So make sure you're getting out there. Go ahead, Chris.
The flip side of my number one that I forgot to mention, I don't like it when other people are overly angry, but the flip side is when I'm frustrated, I try not to be like too outwardly frustrated to like affect other people's games, but you can tell if I missed a bunch of shots. If you can see I'm frustrated, like don't try to give me tips in the middle of the round. I'm not going to do anything with that.
Well, like
right?
people were like overly complimentary when you hit like a really bad shot. It's like, oh, that was well hit. Like, oh, it was okay. Like sometimes that's equally as annoying.
Yeah, I do think keep the tips to yourself. I was struggling with a slice a few weeks ago, and some dudes that really weren't even better golfers than me were like, "Oh, you need to try." And it's like, dude, I'm good. I appreciate it. I'm working through this. But what I will say, Chris, and again, to shout out to Lou Stagner and John Sherman, one of my favorite things to do, and I think it is helpful, and I've heard it's helpful, is when people are frustrated at things that they shouldn't be necessarily frustrated with in golf because it's expected at these levels, is to have that data on hand. And to Nate's point of like being able to talk golf while you're through a round and be like, hey, yeah, you did miss the green there, but what? You're only off by 20 yards or something. And that is actually within the cone of dispersion. And that's probably an average shot for a recreational golfer. So you can feel frustrated, but you're actually playing golf the way that all of us are playing golf. Like, and so I love being able to have those little data points of while somebody's frustrated being like, hey man, you're allowed to be frustrated about that, but just consider for a second that the data says most guys are hitting like this. Like, that's okay. Yeah, this is how golf looks. Don't get mad. So, and Brian here saying, oh no, he's becoming a stat head. If you follow me on Cover One, like I'm not an analytics guy, but I do believe in EPA. I believe in DVOA. And that's what is so fun about golf is we have strokes gained and it can tell you what golf should actually be looking like. So, all right, we went a little long here this week, guys. Yeah. So,
don't forget to subscribe though.
Yes, everywhere, whether it's podcasts, YouTube, follow us on social, Cover One Golf. Like Nate said, he's going to have a bunch of content here coming out. I'm going to be playing golf as much as possibly can until these kids get out of school. So hopefully I'll have some content here coming out as well. But until next week, guys, enjoy the Memorial. We didn't even talk about PGA, but enjoy a fun weekend of golf here, hopefully with the Memorial and rolling into next week where we'll be talking about Pinehurst and the U.S. Open, which is going to be a lot of fun. I know Tilt will be out there. I'm sure some content will be coming our way from Tilt. So on behalf of all of our handsome, great golf hosts here, I'm Aaron Quinn. You've been listening to Cover One Golf, and we are out.